Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon all of you. On behalf of Center for Sustainable Development of Muslim World, I welcome all of you in today's international webinar on Waqf and SDGs, Aspirations and Realities. The program has been organized by Center for Sustainable Development of Muslim World, and the co-partner or co-organizer of today's program is Fred, notriver.com and AYM Worldwide. Respected audience, the topic we have chosen today for discussion is Waqf and SDGs, Aspirations and Realities. This is Khalid Yahyea, the Chief Management Officer of Center for Sustainable Development of Muslim World, and from my professional capacity, I am a CE Accredited Mediator, Center for Effective Dispute Resolution, United Kingdom. Respected audience, the topic we have chosen today for discussion is very important, two very important issues, that is Waqf and SDGs. As you all aware that SDGs has been inaugurated by United Nations in 2000 and after MDGs, which were 8 goals from 2000 and 2015, and the time framework to the 17 goals of Sustainable Development Goals is from 2016 and 2030. So that is a very important topic we will discuss today, and at the same time, Waqf is a very important topic in Islam that brings a very bright legacy of the modern concept trustee or trusteeship. So for having a very important discussion today, we have the chair with us for today's international webinar is Dr. Abu Umar Rafiq Ahmed. He is an associate professor, Islamic Economic Institute, King Abdulaziz University, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and he's also the president of Center for Sustainable Development of Muslim World. We welcome our honorable chair in today's international webinar. Respected audience, we have with us as the chief guest of today's discussion, Professor Dr. Habib Ahmed. He is a chair of Sharjah in Islamic Law and Finance Business School, Durham University, United Kingdom. We hope within a very short time he will join with us. We have with us as the keynote speaker is Dr. Mohammad Omar Faruq. He is an associate professor, Department of Economics and Finance, University of Bahrain, Kingdom of Bahrain. We welcome our honorable keynote speaker in our session. We will have with us as the chief speaker, Barrister Abdullah Muhammad Ismail. He is the president of Birmingham Jami Mosque and Islamic Center and chief executive and legal consultant, Eurasia Legal Services, United Kingdom. We will have with us as the presenter applied industry practitioner, Dr. Rashid. He is the board member and chairman, Sharia Audit Executive Committee, Islamic Bank of Australia. And we will have as the inaugural address, Dr. Muhammad Abu Yusuf Khan. He is the principal of Tamirul Millat Kamil Madrasa, Bangladesh. Respected audience, we will have 4 members for discussion in our panel. We will have Dr. Tamina Anwar. She is the founder, Cred, notriver.com, and at the same time, she is an author, Islamic social entrepreneur and consultant. We will have with us as a discussion Dr. Sami Al Salah. He is the founder, Islamic Institute of Islamic Waqf, Malaysia. We will have with us Dr. Magda Ismail Abdul Mohsin. She is an associate professor, INCEI University in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And last but not the least, as the speaker of our panel, Dr. Abdullahi Yusna Hussaini. He is head of Arabic unit, Sule Lamido University, Kafin Husna, Jigawa State, Nigeria. I welcome all of our guests in today's international webinar. Respected audience, we will start our international webinar today by the recitation from the Holy Quran. I welcome Qari Muhammad Sarwarul Alam to recite from the Holy Quran. He is an Imam of Ministry of Awqaf and Islamic Relations, State of Qatar. I invite Qari Sarwarul Alam to recite from the Holy Quran.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والتين والزيتون وطور سينين وهذا البلد الأمين. لقد خلقنا الإنسان في أحسن تقويم. ثم رددناه أسفل سافلين. إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فلهم أجر غير ممنون. فما يكذبك بعد بالدين أليس الله بأحكم الحاكمين. فما يكذبك بعد بالدين أليس الله بأحكم الحاكمين. صدق الله العظيم.
MashaAllah. Thank you very much, Qari Sarwarul Alam, for his very beautiful recitation. Ladies and gentlemen, we will start our program today by inaugural address. I would like to invite Dr. Mohammad Abu Yusuf Khan, Principal of Tamilul Millat Kamil Madrasa, one of the biggest institute in Bangladesh, to address his inaugural address. Dr. Mohammad Abu Yusuf Khan.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulihil Ameen. All the praises be to Allah, the kind of merciful, the sustainer and cherisher of the world. Peace be upon the last, latest and the final messenger, our leader, Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and his holy family, his companion and the mankind as a world. Allah has said the Holy Quran, وَأَن تَصَدَّقُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ إِن كُنتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. If you give charity, it is better for you if you know. The Honorable Chair of the webinar, Dr. Abu Umar Faruq Ahmad, Associate Professor, Islamic Economics Institute, King Abdulaziz University, KSA. Respected Keynote Speaker, Dr. Muhammad Umar Faruq, Associate Professor, Department of Economics and Finance, University of Bahrain, Kingdom of Bahrain. The most venerable Chief Guest, Professor Dr. Habib Ahmed, Sharjah, Chair in Islamic Law and Finance, Business School, Durham University, UK. Dear Moderator, my beloved student advocate Khalid Yahyea, Chief Management Officer, Center for Sustainable Development of Muslim World. The respectable presenter and knowledgeable discussion and dear viewers all over the world. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm feeling very much honor of having a chance with the inaugural speaker on a popular and important topics in modern time, Waqf and SDGs, aspiration and realities. Dear audience, I would like to focus on Waqf, then SDGs, and finally will make in link and how many aspiration and goals of sustainable development goal can be materialized through Waqf. Let's see what actually Waqf means. A Waqf is Arabic word and an Islamic term also known as hudud. The term Waqf literally means confinement and prohibition, or causing a thing to stop or stand still. In broader sense, means voluntary charity. Waqf is generally given by the Muslim to a religious, educational, and charitable cause with no intention of reclaiming the assets. In the Holy Quran, Allah has inspired such charity as He says, لن تنالوا البر حتى تنفقوا مما تحبون وما تنفقوا من شيء فإن الله به عليم. By no means shall you attain al-bir unless you spend of the which you love, and whatever of good you spend, Allah know it well. Waqf has played significant roles in the socio-economic sector of Muslim people all over the world since the beginning of Islam. Waqf as social institution became dormant in Muslim majority countries during colonial as is it could not function properly. Now Muslim scholars and policymakers have realized the revival of the Waqf as a strong social institution can act as catalyst in mobilization of funds in poor Muslim majority countries for financial social projects, including such needed poverty reduction. The Muslim communities can use Waqf and as an effective tool in social development, such as one, poverty reduction, two, creating employment, three, improvement in quality education, and four, health service. These four sectors are the major aspiration of 17 goals set by United Nations for Sustainable Development Goal. Waqf and handle directly with these four prominent goals. Now our discussion will be focused on SDGs. The Sustainable Development Goal, also known as the Global Goals, are set by all United Nations member states in 2015 as a universal call to action to end poverty, protect the earth, and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity by 2030. Dear audience, with proper planning and administration, Waqf can be important tool for the Muslim world, as most the Muslim people lags behind the social development instruction indicators in terms of poverty reduction, education, and health service. Waqf may emerge as an effective tool in managing and financing social properties. Dear viewers, because of high level of poverty and weak government, most of the Muslim majority countries are behind in spending on schooling and health service. As a result, the level of human capital, productivity, and national income remain at lower level. Muslim majority countries on average have lower literacy rate and primary school enrollment rate when we compare than against the high income and middle income countries. Similarly, in health, infrastructure, life expectancy, and basic facilities like sanitation and water, it is observed that Muslim countries are far behind the high income and middle income countries. On the other hand, Muslim countries have higher average per capita income than the middle income countries, but the socio-income performance of Muslim countries is still lower. This presents a case due to unwillingness of rich people of energy in spending wealth or state help help resource and deficient household who require income and social assistance. The majority of income poor households do not have sufficient or stable source of income, and the lack asset ownership in the quality as a bankable line. In this case, Waqf can apply vital rules to improve the poor income people. Imam Ghazali rahmatullah alayhi said, Islam has insisted Muslim people on providing health work for humanitarian purpose. He mentioned the field to the be provide with the work state or poverty, such as in health service to construction hospital, B to purchase ambulance, C to provide money of critical patient. In educational purpose, funding for construction masjid and madrasa, B setting up the rich library full of Islamic book, C launching scholarship among meritorious students. In social development, having guardianship of the orphan, B organize marriage among needy people, C spending money in burial purpose, D in spreading Islamic teaching and culture. Under Waqf and over donate and dedicate on asset for permanent social benefit. A beneficiary Muslim or non-Muslim can enjoy it average and income particularly. In the contemporary application of the Waqf, it can be established either the dedicating real estate, furniture or fixture, other movable asset in liquid form of the money and wealth like is and share. Whatever is given as work actually given for betterment of humanity. Our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said in the narration of Abu Huraira, إذا مات ابن آدم أن انقطع عنه عمله إلا من ثلاث صدقة جارية أو علم ينتفع به أو ولد صالح يدعو له رواه Muslim. The Messenger of Allah said, when a man dies, his deeds come to an end, except the three things. Sadaqah Jariyah, a knowledgeable which is the beneficial, or a virtuous descendant who pray for him. This is all today. Allah give you the best reward for arranging the such beautiful, wonderful banner. Thank you, the moderator. Thank you, you all. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Ladies and gentlemen, we will have now a keynote presentation. And for keynote presentation, I would like to invite Dr. Mohammad Omar Faruq. He is an associate professor, Department of Economics and Finance, University of Bahrain, Kingdom of Bahrain. I would like to invite Dr. his keynote speech.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. My dear respected brothers and sisters, I would like to take this opportunity first to express my gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving me this opportunity to attend this virtual webinar and have the opportunity also to exchange ideas. And I would like to extend my thanks and appreciation to the organizers, as well as Dr. Abu Umar Faruq Ahmed, who has invited me on behalf of the center, and also respected scholars and experts who are present. I'm sure that I'm also going to learn quite a few things from this webinar. Having said that, I'm going to share the PowerPoint presentation in light of which I'm going to have this discussion, as the theme of this particular webinar is Waqf and SDGs, Aspirations and Realities. Actually, there are two topics that are full of contents themselves, and we're just trying to make a connection between Waqf and SDGs. At the same time, because I'm a keynote speaker, my task is primarily to strike some notes on the key points. And there are other speakers, chief speakers, as well as others. I'm sure that they're going to bring their expertise to share. Now, just to begin with, we are in a situation that we must identify that is an existential issue. The very notion of sustainability has become an existential issue. Unfortunately, like on most issues, we as Muslims are generally laggards and tail-enders. So we are coming somewhat late to catch up with these issues, because most likely we're not quite attuned to these issues until these are brought up in the world stage, and then we try to catch up. Unfortunately, the condition of the Muslims may have been shaped on the basis that we are already akhirah bound, and we are heading in that direction. That's our ultimate goal. So who cares about this world and this planet? It is quite possible that our priorities are lopsided or messed up. And as such, the kind of things we spend our resources on, the kind of things that we spend our emotions and energies on, are not quite connected with such existential issues. It is also possible that those who are at the helm of power, they also do not want us to be conscious and proactive, because they don't want the status quo to be disturbed, because it has also implications for many other status quo related issues. Also, it seems that we might be more short-term oriented. We don't look at the climate, we look at the weather today. So is it hot or cold? Is it stormy or just nice weather? But we do not pay attention to how the planet's environment and climate are changing over a long period of time. And that could be another omission on our part. Also, in a large way, our religious understanding, maybe it has lost the worldly functionality, meaning the matters that are related to world, we can't quite identify and cope with those things on our own in an efficient manner or in an effective manner. And also, sometimes it just happens that we feel helpless. What can we really do about such large things or mega things and so on? So being so weak, helpless, we just ignore the issue. But the challenge remains, and it is an existential challenge. That we started becoming more organized about these issues in 2000, and then we had the 8-point agenda that are called MDGs, and we realized that by the time it became close to 2015, that we're not quite catching up with whatever we have set as a vision for, or the agenda for MDGs. So we shifted to SDGs, or more explicitly, the Sustainable Development Goal. That's now 17 explicit, more focused agenda, so that the kind of issues that we deal with, we are going to be able to more effectively be able to come up with our own effort. Unfortunately, we take a reality check, then even though we have pretty promptly moved from MDGs to SDGs, but it looks like that the aspirations that were reflected in MDGs were too ambitious. And as we quickly realized that the time frame was also quite short, so we have moved from 2015 to 2030. But in my humble estimation, that we might have taken it again too quickly, and the pace of it, the way we are seeing the progress, most likely we are going to miss the target again, and we might have to come up with a different time frame. Part of the reason that we might not be able to achieve our goals is because that the engagement of our community and their commitment, there are also systemic barriers. And by systemic barriers, we mean that each nation that has signed on to these MDGs and then SDGs, actually there are internal and international barriers that do not allow, or somehow there are self-imposed constraints that prevent these powers and rulers and the systems to respond in an effective way. Also, what we are seeing over the last couple of decades, that the civil society that actually has pushed for this sustainability agenda and to facilitate it, their space is somewhat shrinking. And the result of that is being seen that authoritarianism, there are a lot of things that are actually being driven by current agenda of pandemic and so on, where the civil society's role may be shrinking, and we need to keep a sight on that. The policy regimes, frameworks are somewhat incoherent. There are a lot of issues that conflict with the interest that is economic, trade, and investment related policies that scholars and experts have identified. Also, there are issues that are related to human rights, and any of the SDGs that have related to human rights aspects often are particularly being suppressed, ignored, or sidelined by many of the countries. Furthermore, much of the approach underlying the SDGs and the agenda of it is pretty much materialistic. It's all focused on this world. It is much like utilitarian, missing the spiritual, moral dimension for a needed cultural transformation. So basically, even though it is an existing issue, we do need this kind of goals that are focused, detailed, and something that we can carry out through collaborative effort. But it has also a largely missing dimension that is spiritual and moral. Now, let's point out that we are actually in a different period since we began in 2015. The things were not that good even before this black swan of COVID-19. And by the way, if you are not familiar with black swan, it's not actually a swan like the image that you see, but actually it is a rare, imponderable, cataclysmic event for which usually we are repeatedly unprepared. So every crisis is a kind of like black swan that we just can't imagine that it could happen. So we don't prepare ourselves, but this kind of black swans occur repeatedly. And those of you who are interested probably already have, or if you have not, you should read the book by Nassim Taleb on the subject of black swan and the kind of crisis that the humanity faces every now and then. Now, as I said, that even before pandemic, it was difficult. But after the Sustainable Development Report 2020 came out, it is now acknowledged in the report that no area has been spared the effects of the pandemic. 1/3 of the way into our SDG journey, the world is not on track to achieve the global goals by 2030. Before the COVID-19 outbreak, progress had been uneven and more focused attention was needed in most areas. The pandemic abruptly disrupted implementation towards many of the SDGs and in some cases turned back decades of progress. Now, this admission is candid. It actually gives us a reality check that we may have actually suffered a serious setback, that we have to figure out how far we are from achieving these goals. So here is the scenario in the post-COVID-19 era for SDGs. challenges have become bigger. The existential concerns are more pressing, and there are a lot of distractions, political, economic, military, and so on. Those are kind of distractions away from our focus on the SDGs, and those are becoming more overwhelming. So international and regional conflicts, tensions, trade war, and other kinds of internal kind of dynamics that we see playing out in different major countries that drive this agenda, we are seeing the impact of those as serious distractions. The global compact and institutions are weakened. It is important to understand and recognize that the SDGs that we have today, it was shaped through a very engaging collaboration of the world community. And we are seeing a reversal of that, just like the Brexit that caused UK to break away from European Union, the kind of agenda and tendency United States is showing through unilateralism and moving away from global compact and so on. These are serious matters to be contending with. Also, it is an important factor to keep in mind that there are issues related to regulatory captures. And when we say regulatory capture, basically the people who are supposed to be regulated, often they find ways to control the regulators. And that also is a very important concern. Last but not the least, in many aspects, there is a lacking of authenticity, that half-heartedness is related to that we are not quite sincerely and wholeheartedly engaged in this pursuit of SDGs. Now, let us be clear about something, and because I have done some work in this regard. In general, Muslims have some fundamental challenges to face with. We do lack a goal orientation as far as this world is concerned. We know our target in the hereafter. We are moving in that direction, but in this world, often we have problems setting our goals properly. And also, we lack a problem-solving approach. We do not invest enough time and effort to identify, study our problems, and then seek solutions. And I have referred to two of my works that might be of interest to you, including the challenge of poverty and the poverty of Islamic economics, as well as the challenge of poverty and mapping out solutions, requisite paradigm shift from a problem-solving and Islamic perspective. Due to shortage of time, I will not go into that, but draw your attention to these works. You might find some beneficial to that. Now, let us talk about Waqf, which is the related topic. It is an important Islamic heritage. We have a very rich history as part of Islamic civilization. Indeed, in institutionalizing, Muslim civilization has been pioneer in this regard. And this is essentially funding public services through ways that become self-financing. And it is in that context, it is particularly relevant for sustainable development agenda and approach. And because it serves particularly the public in general and the needy in particular, it has a special relevance to SDGs. Just historically, some footnotes. Sustainable charities flourished in various parts of the Muslim world. As Muslims, we should be familiar with our own legacy. And also, history notes that wealthy women, or basically well-off women, often played a very important role in actually dealing with Waqf. I need to add the charger here, just one moment. All right. However, unfortunately, in this fragmented, decadent, and dysfunctional Muslim world as we experience today, the role of Waqf has been largely marginalized. Now, one of the things that we need to also point out that the West actually has capitalized on the very underlying concept, and they also recognize the impact of the Waqf as part of the Islam's contribution to the West. If you have not already read some of these works, you should be familiar with. One of the works that I can point out is Monica Gaudius's work. She did it, her PhD from University of Pennsylvania. that also ranked 7th in educational endowment and first by annual research. And in this particular work that was published in the University of Pennsylvania Law Review in 1988, her paper was The Influence of the Islamic Law of Waqf on the Development of the Trust in England, the case of Martin College. And what she opened her paper with is this following. Oxford University would seem to represent the quintessential English academic institution. Yet, in its early phases of development, Oxford may have owed much to the Islamic legal institution of Waqf, plural Awqaf, charitable trust. Now, this particular reference is also with link that you can study. But one of the things that I want to point out here is that there is a significant difference in terms of our approach to Waqf and the Western approach to trust or endowment. I have looked at some of the patterns of Waqf in particular in the Muslim world, and I have taken this chart from International Waqf Fund that is now spearheading basically the issues and agenda for global Waqf movement and so on. Some of the things that we see is that in the Muslim world, the focus is more pressing needs of the time. So social services, madrasas, orphanages, mosques, those kind of things. On the other hand, in the Western world, the main focus actually is in terms of endowment and trust, education, research, and health. Now, this is particularly important because the kind of impact those endowments have that basically reverberate throughout the world, that is significant compared to we try to have impact at a very micro level at low scale. This is something that is very important for us to understand. Now, to also identify some of the qualitative and quantitative goals related to SDGs in connection with Waqf, we need to identify that there are certain specific areas, qualitative, quantitative, financial, and institutional goals. For some of these, Waqf is particularly relevant and beneficial, and we need to identify those from our perspective, that where it can fit in well. Now, I was talking about the endowment. It's important to understand that in regard to endowment, some of the major universities in the West, like in the United States and UK, they have, some of them have $30+ billion just in the trust or endowment, similar to Waqf. And this has huge impact globally because some of their graduates, when they graduate, they add billions and billions of dollars in creating jobs, setting up industries, creating employment opportunities, and serving global community. And those happen through education, research, and health. Today, in pandemic, we are waiting for a vaccine. And some of these institutions are going to help us. And we basically are going to wait, and usually as we do, that they create the problem, we have to wait until we realize that there is a problem, and then they come up with solution, and then we wait until they come up with the solution. And part of the reason is that their focus is more on large scale projects and avenues in education, research, and health that has global, humanity-oriented impact compared to the micro level impact that we try to focus on. And I hope that you will bring this to your discussion and explore it further. Now, talking about Waqf also, we need to understand that Waqf actually is just channeling, a way of channeling resources for designated purpose. If properly planned, supported, and mobilized, it can fit perfectly and can effectively into the pursuit of sustainable development. However, there are some caveats that we need to be aware of. First of all, just like in any kind of charity or philanthropy, it is not a panacea. It cannot solve all the problems. It is not a substitute of good governance in a society at all levels, or a lack of proper national development initiative and framework. So if we don't have good governance, if we don't have a solid national development plan, then at private level, having small scale, these are still important, very precious, but they would not have the kind of impact that it can have. Management and facilitating of legal environment are also instrumental. Scale and complementarities need to be identified and harnessed. Often we have one work project that doesn't know what other work projects are doing. We can learn from each other. We can network from each other. That is why inter-Awqaf collaboration and mobilization is also important. So toward the end of this presentation, it's important that whether Waqf is a tool or SDGs as goals, there are some essential factors for their success. And if we want to make Waqf successful, together we also need to pursue these. There needs to be good governance, and we all need to work together as a larger agenda to facilitate that. It is important that good governance is people-oriented, not to serve the interest of the powerful and the rich. The good governance includes transparency, as we know that Muslim world has much higher ranking in corruption around the world, which needs to be reversed. And also, as I have mentioned, there needs to be a proper national framework for development. And furthermore, it is not just a matter of few goals and few targets to achieve. Unless we have a culture and environment that embraces it, basically it is a very big challenge to overcome. Now, one of the things that I just want to point out toward the end, this is not an intellectual issue. As I have pointed out, that this is an existential issue. And it is not going to change by a few events here and there. It requires actually a much more serious approach, in the sense that we are in this world, we have been entrusted to take care of this world. We are the Khalifa. We are supposed to be the trustee of this planet. And as one of the hadiths we learned from Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that even if we have a moment, or if we have last breath before the last moment or the Yawmul Qiyamah sets in, if we have something to plant in our hand, we should plant it. The lesson that I get from there, and I don't know what you get, until our last breath, we have to take care of this planet. We need to endear it. We need to consider this as a precious, as an amana from Allah, and also it is an important existential thing in our life. So collectively, we need to create that awareness, create that culture, that whatever at our personal level, organizational level, community level, national level, and global level, whoever in whatever capacity they can, that they need to make the policies and things work that can save this planet until Allah decides to bring it to an end. This is the last part of my presentation, with the call for much more engaging discussion, and I'm sure that other contributors are also going to present their thought. And I should also mention that I am a development economist, but I'm not specializing either in Waqf or actually in SDGs, although this is my more recent focus on SDGs. So I'm sure that I'm going to learn quite a bit from other scholars and experts as well. Wa ma tawfiqi illa billah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much, Dr. Muhammad Umar Faruq, for his very important keynote speech. So many issues has been addressed in his presentation. So I believe our panel members and other speakers reflect the issues he has been raising in his speech. Ladies and gentlemen, now there will be presentation by applied industry practitioner. So in this regard, I would like to invite Dr. Rashid Rashid, who is a board member and chairman, Sharia Audit Executive Committee, Islamic Bank of Australia. I would like to invite Dr. Rashid Rashid for his important speech.
Assalamu alaikum, brother, from down under Australia. So it's almost the Maghrib time here. I think we just entered, so it's okay. Now, industry practice takes us straight to the Maqasid al-Sharia, the objective of the Sharia. I was very upset to see that it's almost impossible to form an opinion, to see the differences of a madhahib. You know, Malik said this, Ahmad ibn Hanbal says this, XYZ said this. Brother, my wife told me once, just tell me one thing. I just want to know which one do I have to follow. So annoying. This is the problem that we have in the industry. without us studying the objective of the Sharia, we are nowhere near to prove Omar arsalnaka illa rahmatan lil alamin, for the Prophet to be the rahmah for the universe, entire universe, Muslims and non-Muslims included. The people of the day today, you have to be able to find a solution on the spot. This is the ayat of the Quran, and secondary source, I repeat, of Islam is the hadith that explains the Quran only, does nothing else. So the Quran is in front of you as it was in front of the Prophet on the day of the time of the Prophet. So you are very lucky. You did not miss anything. Quran, the Prophet is the same Quran you have word for word, letter. You have to go into that particular wording of the Quran and find out a solution for the problem you are facing. If you do not think that I'm fit for it, please don't meddle with it. You are not fit for it. Leave it for someone who can do it. But without us having that aptitude and quality, you will mislead people, you will disservice the ummah, you will disservice the cause of da'wah. This is the industrial practice I'm having. Allah says in the Quran very clearly, Yuridullahu bikum al-yusr, wala yuridu bikum al-usr. Allah wants to make life easy for you. He does not want to make life difficult for you. Full stop. Easiness and difficulty is not defined, has no definition. As such, what is easy for you may not be easy for me. So you and the mukhatab and the audience in front of you, you have to find a solution. That is what easy means, and go for it. But if you think that you are not fit for it, you wouldn't take responsibility for what you're saying, please don't touch it. Give it to someone you think that he can do it. This is the requirement number one. Having direct knowledge of the Shari'i nusus. Having direct knowledge of Shari'i nusus in Arabic, for you to understand every single word and implication of that word in Arabic. What does that mean? Is a requirement number one. For you to be able to say that is what the Quran means and Hadith is interpreting this. At times, Hadith interprets differently because given the time and the reality of the time and the Prophet, the audience the Prophet has had. But the Quran is in front of you, your audience is different. So you should be able to explain the reality of the audience within the light of the Quran itself. Then you are the industry practitioner and you will make Islam very much appealing and pragmatic and dynamic. Without that, please don't. This is the problem we are having. This mazhab business. Mazhab is good for us as a common law, as a heritage for us to see how our scholars studied Islam in their, given the reality of the time at the time. It will enlighten us to approach the Quran seriously. But mazhab must not dictate you to say, you are trying to find a solution how to run a software, a program developed, driven by Windows 10, using the Microsoft Office 1995. Impossible. MS Office or Windows 1995 was designed, it has been now outdated. It will not work. So the software you want to run in front of your computer needs Windows 10. So the Quran is rahmatul lil alameen for every time that you live in. Quran will live challenge without a doubt. There is no doubt in that. Quran did, will, and is living. But am I fit for it? Am I doing this service to the Quran in the name of mazhab? Am I doing the service to the Quran in the name of what they call the conservatism, tahaffuz? What if I am wrong? Brother, if that is deterrent for you, what if I am wrong? You are not fit for it. Please don't meddle with it. You will disservice Islam. So back on the topic of the waqf, come back. The word, when the best the asset of Umar came to the Prophet, to him, of course, he lived the standard of lan tanalul birra hatta tunfiqu mimma tuhibbun. He said, I love this. This is the best asset I've got, a piece of land in Khaybar. Oh Prophet, I don't want to enjoy it myself. I want to give it for the welfare purpose. Tell me, what do I do? Then the golden word, he says, ahbisha in shi'it wa tasaddaq biha. He did not say what the word waqf. He says ahbisha. Ahbisha means stop it. This is the same word of waqf. It means you stop it. You put an anchor on it. You make it permanently usable for the people, for the welfare purposes, and you do sadaqah on that. Then Nafi' ibn Umar, Umar's son Nafi' ibn Umar, this says, hadith, I can see Nafi' ibn Umar. I would probably say that Nafi' ibn Umar is Umar's another son. Maybe I'm wrong. If I am, please correct me. He says that Umar said, yes, I leave it, I make it permanent for the cause of Waqf, which is a permanent cause. And then it will not be sold, it will not be given as a gift, it will not be misused. غَيْرَ مُتَمَوِّلٍ بِهِ. Then he says, yes, the person who will administer it, he can get something out of it, but he must not take it as a booty. He must not misuse it. If you can guarantee that particular purposes, that the asset of the Waqf is perpetually guaranteed, whatever the way your common law allows you in the country you are living, you would be living the expectation of the Umar, and you would be living the guidelines of the Prophet ﷺ, ihbasha or ahbisha in shayt wa tasaddaq biha. But again, what is fit for the purpose in Bahrain or in Malaysia, in Australia, where I am in, may not be fit for a country like Bangladesh. We have got a country where it got Waqf, and the Waqf has now been put in the pocket of the government. This is Bangladesh I'm talking about. You got the Waqf board in India. The Indian Modi government is now in the business of utilizing it, stealing it and eating it by the South Hindu government. This is what is going on with the Waqf property in the Muslim land, in India, in Bangladesh. The Waqf is now a government office. So the people who are there, people who stole the election, who are not elected, they are the people who are stealing it. But where are we? So how do you do it? So the best way to do Waqf in Bangladesh is to do it under the Societies Incorporation Act, under the company law, because the companies, in their millions. So in the company law, the government cannot and will not interfere with company law, because that interferes with the entire government and the structure of it. So Waqf in Bangladesh is not through Waqf state, Waqf board. Waqf in Bangladesh today, the safest Waqf is through company law. You design a constitution, you do as much guarantee as you want so that it cannot be misused, but you own the company and you make what you call entrenched clauses, the clause that cannot be modified. This is a very significant word, entrenched clause, that you put in your constitution, entrenched clauses that cannot be modified, altered in the absence of the will maker, that is you. And that will be for this perpetual purpose of use by the people who are in need. And that cannot be done or altered by your own beneficiary who will be administering the Waqf after you, maybe your son, maybe your friend, maybe a person that you trust, but he cannot deal with it. He cannot misplace it. This is the entrenched clause is what is working in Australia, and it is working for us very well. Please, we do not have to follow a particular country. There is nothing to be followed. Muslims are the worst enemies of Islam. Today, I'm telling you, Muslim governments are, with the exception of one or two, I don't want to mention the names, with the exception of the one that I'm so proud of him, who has done the Hagia Sophia return, the mosque to the mosque. The people who take pride in calling themselves, yes, my country is Islamic and I am Muslim. And they're very small in numbers. I appreciate the services that Imran Khan did. We have to. We appreciate the position that Islamic government of Iran has taken. Erdogan has taken. The few number are limited, 3 or 4. Brother, others are working against Islam, against the wishes of the Ummah. You may not like it, but that is what it is, brother. So Waqf as a institution has to continue. For it to continue, do not give damn care as to what the country or the Waqf ministry, Wazar and Waqf, all this says. This is all rubbish. The people who are serving the enemies of Islam, al-adu min al-dakhil, enemy from within. Yes, I can say that in Australia, I'm very proud of this country where I give the freedom of information and speech. I'm safe here. I'm telling you, we have enemies from within. There's a billions of people who are following one particular leader or two particular leaders. A billion or 2 billion behind them. There are also 2 billion who hate many of them. They have got big names, and we know who they are. We have seen that last week. So the Waqf, back to the point of practitioner, to practice Waqf is that you have to go back to Maqasid al-Sharia. The maqsad of Waqf is to make it a perpetual use, that it cannot be lost halfway through in the hand of the people who are cheaters, who are enemies from within, in the name of the Waqf board, or in the name of the country. In country like Bangladesh, I would dare say that, where there is all thieves. Now in the country, there's a word has been taken out to be, the Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, we lost it. Now that we have been dictated to lose, that is a secular country. Brother, tell me, 90% Muslim country you are talking about. Shame on us.
Yeah. Honorable Speaker, can you please
we come back to the point. We come back to the point. The point of particular industry practice. So without us going back to the Maqasid al-Sharia, ihbasha in shi'it means you perpetually guarantee the use of the asset, the use of the yields of the asset for the welfare purposes. If you can guarantee it in the country of your own, you can do it. Do not listen to the mazahib. Mazahib will help you for you to understand responsibly. But please, no mazahib will tell you what to do. You have to come up with a solution.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Jazakumullah khairan.
Yeah. Jazakumullah khairul jaza. Thank you very much, Dr. Rashid Rashid, for his important speech. Now we will go to our honorable member of panel for their speeches. Before going there, may I humbly request our every speakers to finish their respective speeches within due time, and every panel speakers will get 10 minutes to finish their respective speeches. At this point of time, may I invite Dr. Abdullah Yunusa Husaini. He is head of Arabic unit, Soli Lamido University, Kafin Hausa, Jigawa State, Nigeria. Dr. Abdullah Yunusa Husaini, please.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه فسبحانك اللهم أستغفرك اللهم وأتوب إليك اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وبعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Brothers and sisters in Islam, let me first thank this great organization which has tried to organize seminars or conference like this during this COVID-19. So actually, I will thank you very much to organize these seminars. And especially, we talk about great topics and others. So briefly, let me start to discuss about. Let me use this ayah. What I had it from you before. You say, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. لن تنالوا البر لن تنالوا البر حتى تنفقوا مما فجست this now
مما تحبون
مما تحبون جزاكم الله خيرا. طيب, in this point, really, if you want to join this ayah with what Sheikh Rashid, sorry, from Australia, I had your point when you're talking about madhahib. So in here, when talking about madhahib, I don't know, Sheikh, what do you mean to say don't believe with madhahib first? But for me, I know what ulama said, man ijtahada, something like that. If man ijtahada lahu ajr, something like that. So actually, do you know, ayah is just talking about what they call the arm. So madhahib just takes something like, sorry, madhahib talking about al-ayah talking about khas, and those madhahib talking about what they call particularly. So actually, when we're talking about, or if you use this hadith or what Abu Hurairah said about reported Allah subhanahu messenger said, a word of wisdom is the what is the lost prophet, because of what, when you see that the rate of well, sorry, what he said about subhanallah, wisdom of the Abu Hurairah, when asked
Honorable Speaker, may our speaker has some technical problem. So now we will go to our next honorable panel members. At this point of time, I would like to invite Dr. Sami Al Salah. He is the founder, International Institute of Islamic Waqf, Malaysia. I would like to invite to speak Dr. Sami Al Salah, please.
You hear me, brother?
Yeah, please.
طيب الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. First of all, I would like to thank the organizer of this event, and I would like also to thank the speakers for this great subject. I have 8 points for this seminar. The first of all, I read the article of Dr. Faruq, and I wish when he talk about awqaf or waqf and maqasid sharia Islamic objective, I think we need to explain more about this relation. I think we have a strong relationship between awqaf and maqasid sharia Islamiyah, especially when we talk about the religion, deen, or nafs, soul, or mind, al-aql, or al-mal, or even al-nasl. We have the strong relationship between the awqaf and maqasid, and I didn't find this relationship in his article. This is the first point. Second point, we believe strongly that awqaf in our history cover the Islamic objective very well. When the Prophet Muhammad said to Umar bin Khattab, in shi'ta habbastaha, when the Prophet Muhammad gave flexibility to the Prophet, to the Umar bin Khattab to manage his awqaf very well. And in this point, we found many, which we call masarif, to the beneficiary people, to the animals, to the anything in the Muslim society which we need.
I'm sorry.
You hear me? Hello?
Yeah, Dr.
I'm sorry, because of
Dr. Hussein, I will give you a bit later. Dr. Hussein, I will give you a bit later. Yeah. Yeah, Dr. Salah is speaking now. I will give you a bit later after finishing his speech.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. Thank you.
This is very, very important. We have to believe when we talk about development.
Okay,
we have to believe that awqaf mu'assasa walada, productive institute. Awqaf, not like charity foundation. Awqaf should be using investment. We have to use the income for investment. That's why we call mu'assasa walada or mu'assasa muntija, productive institute. Because many people thought that awqaf only like mosque, we have to use awqaf for nothing. If we want to use awqaf for development in our society, in our countries, we have to give support from our governments. We have to give support from our people to this institute to help us in this development. I think the critical point in awqaf and development in our societies, the lack of governance. We don't have governance in our awqaf sector, especially in the government, awqaf government, public awqaf, or even in private awqaf, we don't have governance. If I ask myself and you, how many Waqf institute in the Muslim world show their annual report every year? How many? Give me percentage. We don't have. Even in the government. If I go, last time my student asked me to need to get information about awqaf in the rule of awqaf institute in their society. I advise them to go to the which we call Wazarat al-Awqaf, Ministry of Awqaf. The people there refuse to give any information about their report, financial report, investment report. So I said the absence of governance. I think this is the critical point we face it in development. Other point, if we need to achieve development through the endowment, the Awqaf institutes in our society, we must to ask government to must move away from the control and complete supervision over the reality of Awqaf institute, because we don't allow, as we before when the Prophet Muhammad advised people to establish Awqaf, they didn't give any control to the government or to the state to put their control in this institute. So nowadays, many people in the Muslim society refuse to establish Awqaf because they're scared the government will take or they will handle or manage these Awqaf. That's why some of them go to the West and establish Awqaf because he wants to manage and invest his endowment or his Awqaf as he likes. But in the some Muslim countries, the problem, some of them scared. And I know the founder of the first Muslim Islamic bank. He told me by himself before he died. He said, "I refuse to establish Awqaf in my country because I scared the government after I die, they will take it and using under the government authority." Other point, which I think is very important, we have to treat the missing of the Awqaf asset in our country. We have a problem in every Muslim country, which we call missing, and we don't record or register tasjil, Awqaf in our lands. That's why the people didn't give trust to the Awqaf Foundation, because many Awqaf using in different way. And also, and this is very important for development, we must to follow the interest of ijtihad of Awqaf. We not allowed to any mufti, even the mufti or anyone, Muslim scholar, to give fatwa or to give legal opinion of Awqaf nowadays without, if he didn't have experience how to manage and invest Awqaf. Last time I was in Kuwait, and we have mufti in Muslim country. He said we have to give the money of Awqaf like we give the money of zakah, and this is very wrong. This is wrong. We cannot accept it. Awqaf not like charity foundation. Awqaf is investment foundation. That's why when we treat Awqaf as the charity foundation, we lost. Finally, I want to say about the last speaker from Syria when he said we have to follow the teaching of Quran, and we don't. I think as he said, Prophet Muhammad himself in the hadith, he said, "In shi'ta habbastaha." Prophet Muhammad gave flexibility to the Umar bin Khattab to use ijtihad to how to manage his waqf. We have to follow the interest, which we call al-maslaha, when we want to use awqaf, the Islamic tax, or which we call nusus diniya in the Quran or hadith, a little. We don't have complete understanding of the reality of waqf. Therefore, we have to follow schools of madahib. Shafi'i, Hanafi, Hanbali, Maliki. Ibn Taymiyyah himself also, he said, Al-Waqf yaduru ma'al maslaha wujudan wa adaman. Ibn Taymiyyah, he said that himself. So we have to follow the interest of fatwa. We have to follow madhab al-Maliki. We have to follow madhab al-Hanbali if we find the interest, al-maslaha lil-waqf, for the waqf. So I think we have to follow the interest, not we. And I refuse to say we have to go back to the Quran. Of course, we have to go back to the Quran. But Quran gave us general advice. We have to go to the madahib to understand the reality of awqaf. And we also in our time, we have to use the tools of ijtihad to understand and give a good interest of awqaf. This is my short speak to you, and thank you, brother.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sami Al-Salah, for his very wonderful speech. At this point of time, may I invite Dr. Abdullah Hussaini to complete his rest of the speeches within 4 minutes, please. Hussaini, please. Yeah, Dr. Hussaini. Dr. Abdullahi Yunusa Hussaini, can you please finish your rest of the speech? Maybe he's out of the network at the moment. At this point of time, may I invite Dr. Magda Ismail Abdel Mohsin. She is an associate professor, International Center for Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Dr. Magda Ismail Abdel Mohsin, please.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. First, I would like to thank the organizer for inviting me for this event. I also would like to thank Dr. Tamina for recommending my name for this event. Thank you, Tamina. She is my ex-student. Okay. I would like to share the screen if possible. So can I share it now?
Yeah, please.
Okay, can you see now?
No. Share screen.
Okay, I'm sharing now.
Yes,
okay.
yes,
Okay.
it's working.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Let us start. I will try as within these 10 minutes, if possible, to cover all this. Inshallah, the 17 SDGs and are they achievable? Role of Waqf during the last 1,300 and the SDGs and the destruction of the role of Waqf and the Waqf situation today. The questions that I'm going to raise is, we know that since 2000 to 2015, there is this 8 millennium MDGs. And of course, which include, the extreme poverty, eradication of extreme poverty and hunger. So the question is, are they achieved? Definitely, all of us, we know, no, it is not. And besides, during that time, a huge gap between the rich and the poor has been achieved. The second one, based on these goals has not been achieved, they add another 9 goals, for achieving, and it comes, 17 SDGs. Again, the questions, are they going to be achievable, especially within the current situation? I'm giving you a question, yes or no. And the answer is yes, okay? But to me, I believe it can be yes in only one situation. If we are going to follow the Islamic teaching. Because the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that, تَرَكْتَ فِيكُمْ مَا إِن تَمَسَّكْتُمْ بِهِ لَن تَضِلُّوا أَبَدًا كِتَابَ اللَّهِ وَسُنَّتِي. The Prophet ﷺ has left 2 legacy for us, the book, the Quran, and the book, the Sunnah. So if we are not going to practice them, if we're not going to implement whatever principle is there, believe me, 2030 will come, and then they will come up with another, I don't know how many, maybe 35 new SDGs. So we blame ourselves, you know. So following the teaching of Islam, we realize that within the past 1,300 years, you know, the Muslims, you know, because they were following the teaching of Islam, they had this great civilization, okay? And they become the leaders of in this world. However, losing it, you know, because we are not following it, this is what is happening at the present time for all the Muslim countries. Okay. Let us look at Maqasid al-Sharia and the SDGs. I believe that Maqasid al-Sharia, which contains, you know, the 5 elements, it is the umbrella for all the SDGs, for all, you know, the 8, you know, the 8 MDG and the 17 SDGs. But maybe the question is that if it is so, then why it has not been achieved, you know, the 8 SDGs? I believe that because, you know, the Muslims at the present time, they're not following the teaching of Islam. And now the question, is it going to be the 17 SDGs? Is it going to be achievable? I can say, and I can assure, yes, it can be achievable only in one situation, if we are going to follow the Islamic finance, the Islamic teaching, which include Islamic finance. The first one is prohibition of riba, and, you know, the alternative financial institution of riba, and then the inclusion of the Islamic financial institution, which include waqf, zakat, sadaqat, takaful, and all this. Only then, I believe that we can achieve the more than the 17 SDGs. But we have to start now, okay? Just going, you know, before this, I just want for the Islamic social finance, I'm going to focus on waqf, which is the sadaqah jariyah. Okay, but let me just explain to you the 3 types of sadaqah in Islam we have at the present time. We have sadaqah mu'lana, okay? We have sadaqah makhfiya, mu'lana, non-sadaqah, and sadaqah makhfiya, the hidden sadaqah. Both of them, you can find them in Al-Quran, in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 271, in tubdu sadaqat fa ni'ma hiya. If you want to show it, to encourage others to do it. And the other one, وَإِن تَخْفُوهَا وَتُؤْتُوهَا الْفُقَرَاءَ فَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. And if you want to give, you know, hiddenly, this is the best. And we know, you know, one of those who are going to be sheltered during the day of judgment is one who hides his sadaqah. The third one, which we are going to talk about now, it is the sadaqah jariyah, okay? This type of sadaqah provides sustainable finance through investing it, and only the revenue generated will go, you know, to the beneficiary, will provide perpetual goods and services to the community, to the society, to mankind, okay? So this is the importance of this institution, providing perpetual services, you know, including all these SDGs, okay? So, and at the same time, it is a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you know, which has been given to mankind, to the founder, you know, to collect compound rewards until the day of judgment. Okay, I want to show you that within the past, as I mentioned just now, within the past 1,300 years, okay, starting from the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, starting from the establishment of waqf, we realize that it has a link with the SDGs, okay? And the Prophet ﷺ teach us, the Prophet ﷺ advise us, whenever we find a need in our society, don't go, you know, outside. Internally, you can do it. So this is his advice. Whenever he identified a need in a society, okay, he will immediately fulfill it through creating waqf or through encouraging his companion to create the waqf and fulfill it. Just I'm going to give you some of the examples. For example, he built Masjid Quba, the first masjid, and then Masjid al-Nabawi. Yes, they were using to pray on that masjid, but it is used also for teaching, and which is already linked to one of the SDGs, education. He also gave one of his house, you know, as a guest house, which we can say now as a hotel or a motel. He gave also his 7 gardens, which has been given to him by the Jewish Mukhayraq, okay, for feeding the mass. So stop, you know, alleviate hunger. also to the SDGs. He encouraged his companion also to give, for the poor, for the needy, for the relative, alleviate poverty. He encouraged also his wives, to give their jewelry, to their relative, poor relative, okay, alleviating poverty, and so forth. Okay, shelter, he also, asked Sayyidina Osman, to buy the well of Ruma to provide water for the Muslims and for the non-Muslims. And starting from that time, and with that type of teaching to the Muslim, Waqf has flourished until, the Ottoman, okay, whereby it becomes, Waqf becomes like a network which has penetrated all sectors, industry, agriculture, infrastructure, health, education, everything, it constitutes the Muslim's life, to the extent that there is a saying say that it was possible for a person to be born in a Waqf hospital, live in a Waqf house, study in a Waqf school, work in a Waqf institution, and be buried in a cemetery. So all these are Awqaf. Okay, what happened? Okay, and then I'm just putting for you this book. It has been, published by the Directorate General of Foundation in Turkey. They found 105 types of Waqf, which cover all the SDGs plus others. I'm just putting some of these, which is the additional. Support the Navy, sending people to Hajj, taking students to picnicking, even for entertainment, prevent natural disasters. This is what we are having now. Beautifying the environment. Yes, I believe it is included in the SDGs. Wishing doctors who have good personality to that extent, mashallah. Waqf feeding the birds. Waqf feeding, the animals, in the street, and then Waqf prohibiting tobacco in the elementary school. So it's very, very rich. Okay, then of course, after the destruction of the Ottoman, okay, then the problems start, okay, because end of the Ottoman, we have the secularization, and then we have the colonization, and then even after independence, the role of Waqf has declined. There is mismanagement of Waqf properties, abolishment of family Waqf. Huge number of Waqf properties were underdeveloped. Founders' conditions are not fulfilled for many years. Right of the beneficiaries are not met. Many unforeseen court cases has been, between the trustee and the family member. Role of Waqf becomes idle, unproductive, and a burden. Alhamdulillah, luckily within the past, I can say 3 decades, there was a recent recall for reviving the institution of Waqf in Muslim and Muslim minority countries. And Alhamdulillah, through our study, or through our research in INSEF, alhamdulillah, we come up with 4 books, 3 books. 1 book is inshallah soon coming, but just to show you, this is one of them. We found out actually the main, at INSEF, the main focus was finance, okay? We tried to find the Islamic financial modes. So when we were doing this book, including Sister Samina is one of the members for this book. Okay, while we were doing this one, it was before, the before the 17 SDGs. But alhamdulillah, after we published it, we realized that, oh, mashallah, whatever has been, developed within these 3 decades, it's, yes.
Dr. Magda Ismail, can you please finish your speech?
Oh, mashallah. Okay, just to show you, okay, alhamdulillah, within the current time, yes, I'm going to leave this one just to show you it's really, it's the link with the SDGs at the present time, even coming with new, this one in Turkey now, they are providing it within the last 2 months, okay, they're providing soup. Waqf, they call it sabil for hot soup in Turkey. So we can do a lot, I believe. So this one, it is my Waqf in Malaysia. They are doing it, and it's very, very successful through crowdfunding. Okay, these are new cases which we can look at my Waqf, and what they are doing at the present time. Okay, this is, I'm just going through quickly. This is how, to empower people, to empower the poor people, how to finance them. Also, it is very, very successful cases. I hope that we can, I will share it with you, inshallah. So the challenges and recommendation. So let me, just go quickly. There is mismanagement of administrations. Yes, we agree. So we need to revisit the Islamic teaching of Islam through the decentralization and centralization of Waqf. You know, lack of finance to develop the idle Waqf property. We used to, you know, have innovative financial board. A lack of knowledge, we need to propagate it through institution, you know, through the media. Lack of transparency, motivate, you know, innovation mode, you know, through fintech, blockchain, and Waqf tech, you know, and then discourage people from contributing and donating, you know, make it transparent, make people, you know, like to contribute to this Waqf. Lack of governance, this is very, very important. The urgent need for a comprehensive blueprint, you know, on Waqf governance. And then, of course, the need for more innovative ideas. We have to link it to the blockchain. This is our book, which inshallah is coming soon. It is a textbook which is going to be taught in universities. We dedicated one whole chapter, chapter 6, for linking, you know, the role of Waqf with the SDGs. I think by this, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Magda, Ismail, Abed, Mohsin, for her very wonderful speech. At this point of time, I would like to invite the last panel speaker. She is no other than Dr. Tahmina Anwar. She is the founder, TradeNotRiba.com. Dr. Tahmina Anwar, please.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I'd like to start this session.
Can you be a bit louder, please?
Okay, I'd like to start this session by thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving me this opportunity to basically virtually connect up with my colleagues and, you know, all the viewers. I would also like to thank the organizers, especially Brother Nafis Ahmed. And it's so good to see my lecturer, actually, Professor Dr. Majda Ismail.
Dr. Tahmina, can you be a bit louder, please? Very poor sound from your side.
Yeah, is this better?
A bit better.
Yeah. I'm actually on the mobile because I've got problem with my laptop, so that's the issue, and I haven't got a headphone that works. So I'll try my best anyway. But can you hear me? That's the main thing.
A very poor sound, not clear, actually.
Oh, all right. Is anything you can do? No. Okay. I'll just carry on.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Just try to be a bit louder from your side. Yeah. Just
okay.
by your sound.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. So also it's good to see Dr. Habib. I used to talk to Dr. Habib while I used to do my PhD. I remember Dr. Rashid in Australia. So, you know, welcome. So basically, as I was introduced, I'm the founder of TradeNotRiba.com. It's an organization that's registered in New Zealand. And the main aim of the organization is basically to promote the models to empower communities to trade without engaging in riba or interest. And I created a model called Islamic social entrepreneurship during my PhD studies, which Dr. Majda knows. She was actually my external examiner. So I used Waqf as a funding platform because I wanted to bypass banks, and there are reasons for that. Anyway, we'll cover that in another session. And the Islamic social entrepreneurship model is an investment model that creates profit and social impact. So the rationale behind Islamic social entrepreneurship model is to improve the well-being, sustainability, and economic performance of the communities by engaging in social entrepreneurship practices by circulating wealth. The social impacts are designed to create community empowerment, sustainability, social justice, and poverty elevation. I've also written a book called Waqf, a Vehicle for Islamic Social Entrepreneurship. As Dr. Majda said, I also wrote a chapter in book called Financing the Development of All Waqf Properties, which she actually gave me the opportunity to write. So I'm writing my third book, which I hope will be out by the end of the year. So as we know, there are a lot of societal challenges at the moment, such as poverty and inequality, which are really a global issue. And poverty actually exists in both developing world and also in developed world. So poverty, I mean, even in the Western world, there is poverty, but probably for different reasons. And we also know that, you know, the world has changed in the year 2020. Our normal way of life is no longer the same. Life is turned upside down with COVID-19. So one of the biggest casualties of a COVID-19 pandemic is actually poverty. It is not just the greatest effect of COVID-19 is actually, you know, people losing their jobs, and it affects not just, you know, poorer countries, but Western countries as well, where, you know, a lot of businesses have closed down because of lockdowns. And one of the reasons for the rising poverty is actually unemployment, and with trades being hampered with border restrictions and lack of circulation of wealth, which actually affects governments and also communities, because, you know, without the circulation of wealth, I mean, there's no tax, there is no money that goes around. So in future, we will actually see more poverty, you know, due to increase in unemployment. There'll be lower standard of living, worsen of healthcare, and poorer education, all triggering poverty. And that would be the biggest socioeconomic development challenge globally, actually. So with the widening of inequality, the cost of basic necessities of life will increase significantly, and it will actually affect even the middle class. I mean, a lot of people will be out of reach, you know, from what things that they were actually used to. This, coupled with large-scale environmental devastation to the planet, calls for a rethinking of the way the present-day economic principles are designed. So in the past, there have been a lot of theoretical concepts, round-the-table discussions, research methodologies, PhDs, media debates, and also government involvements, which are mainly based on a conventional point of view. But there is actually no solution. I mean, we still remain in the dark in terms of social challenges that concern poverty, community development, sustainability, and social injustice. So to be realistic, the past experience have not lived up to any promised expectation to community development and empowerment. Secondly, considerations. So there are a few reasons for this. The first reason is that the solutions that has been put across are actually unbalanced, in the sense that they are more geared towards profit and not on community development or community empowerment. Considerations are not given to factors affecting sustainability and moral integrity of economic systems and methods, especially for marginalized or poorer people. You know, they don't seem to get the share of the economic pie. This is also in the West. It's not just a problem in developing countries, but it's also a problem in the West. Thirdly,
Dr. Tahmina Anwar, very low sound from your side. Can you please raise your voice a bit louder, then our guests and audience can hear you as they can.
So, yeah, the economic systems have been modeled on individualistic rationals combined with private self-interest agendas instead of the common good. And that is one of the issues why we haven't actually been able to find a solution for poverty. So it has been widely accepted that overemphasis of financial returns undermines integrity of activities as a whole, as well as financial sustainability of communities. Now, shifting the focus to the Muslim world, it can be observed that despite many Muslim countries having an abundance of natural, economic, and human capital resources, and also the Islamic doctrine that emphasizes on the circulation of wealth, particularly the surplus from the rich to the poor, in order to provide a fairer economic system, there is still a lot of poverty in the Muslim world. In fact, it's more than the Western world. So, and the reasons for this that I have come up with is that to find solutions, actually, yeah, the Muslim world has to stop blaming others, including the West, and find solutions from the Islamic teachings. And the issue is that we are not following Islam. That's the issue. And at the end of the day, we know that Islam is a holistic religion. It has solutions for everything. You know, we just have to you know, implement a system. And as Muslims, I mean, there's always hope that we will find solutions from Islam. I mean, that's why, you know, we're Muslims. So just giving you an example, yeah, looking back at the history, Islamic history, we learned that the era between 717 CE and 720 CE, it was actually known as the economic golden age under Caliph Omar bin Abdulaziz. I mean, at that time, that was the period where collection of zakat was so efficient that people had to go to the market to find.
I'm sorry, Dr. Tahmin Anwar. Actually, we can't hear anything. So can you please just conclude your concluding remarks? We are sorry because technology doesn't always support us. This happens today.
Okay, that's fine. So the conclusions are, you know, that Waqf is a great tool, and it is actually a solution to many of the problems that we are facing. But there are issues with Waqf. One of them is actually the investment strategies that has to be properly, you know, properly strategized. And the second one is corporate governance that Dr. Sami covered. That is a huge issue with corruption. Okay,
thank you. Thank you very much. We are very sorry that sometimes we have to depend on technology, which always doesn't support us. Yeah, we are really sorry to our honorable guests and of course to our honorable audience. At this point of time, may I invite Dr. Abdullah Yunusa Hussaini. He spoke earlier. Can you please finish your speech within 3 minutes, please? Dr. Hussaini, please. Yeah.
Even me, I'm the same. Like we have actually bad network and bad weather. So maybe if you start and it can go in. And sorry, you know, especially here in Nigeria now we are in morning. So sometime if the rain, so have problems. So I face this problem here now. So maybe if you are, maybe I will continue and you can. So let me just take these two fields. Two points about Waqf. Actually, I'm heard about upgrading that handout which I saw it from you. So, field of Waqf. I want to see about field of Waqf, especially here in generally what solution. So what Islam said about this? Do you know when we live in this hadith what Abu Talha said radiallahu anhu, جعل الله أحب ماله إليه وقفا في سبيل الله. So because of when you use this hadith, Abu Talha, to make this what do you call it, waqf of in what do you call it, in marriage, something like that, for marriage, and for this for orphans, and maybe let me call same in the mosque and others. So when talking about this, all what do you call it, what do you call it, is for marriage. So I think waqf is going to be very important to those.
Again, very maybe poor network problem. So we will go. We can see our honorable chief guest, both, and chief speaker are with us. So before going to our chief speaker, may I invite now to give a few comments to Dr. Rashid about the contemporary comment and speech of our respective guests. Dr. Rashid, please, 2 minutes. Can you please unmute yourself?
Take my muzzle off. Thanks. For us to provide a formidable Islamic alternative for trust, there is no other way. Categorically, there is no other way for the local scholar of the time and era for them to come up with a befitting solution of permanent welfare use of waqf estate using the contemporary, the local laws and regulations. There is no other way. You can talk of madhab, anything. All we have is a good thing about our madhab. وَلَا تَجْعَلْ فِي قُلُوبِنَا غِلًّا لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا رَبَّنَا إِنَّكَ رَءُوفٌ رَحِيمٌ is our approach. We have nothing against madhahib, but madhabi approach will not fit. As it is the case, Windows 95 will not be able to operate the software, the application developed on Windows 10. Bottom line. So contemporary scholars of the time must come up within the maqasid al-sharia, must come up with a permanent use of the waqf estate or facilities to guarantee that the interest of the needy is being served. There is no doubt in it. Madhab is something first madhab came at least 125 years after the Prophet's death. If you are telling that madhab is essential, then all the Sahabis who died before the 125 years, they are not good Muslims. Na'udzubillah, we can't say that. Madhab is a guide for us. Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu was the first Imam, but he was on the Hijrah 80, he was born. Give him 20 years for him to mature. So 100 years. After 100 years of the Prophet's migration, first Mazhab came. All the Sahabas are already dead by then. Are you talking that without Mazhab you can't survive? So brother, bottom line, Mazhab is not essential for you.
Yeah,
what is essential for you? Quran and understanding of the Quran with the support of your logic and authentic hadith. There is no other way.
Thank you. Yeah. At this point of time, before going to our honorable chief speaker, may I invite Dr. Mohammad Omar Faruq to comment on the speakers. Please, for 2 minutes, please.
Assalamu alaikum. Well, one of the discussions, comments I could not hear, Dr. Samina Anwar, so I cannot make any comment on that. Hopefully, there could be some written communication later on to understand. Dr. Sami Salahat made a very good point. Actually, somewhat in a hurry, I did send a paper, summary paper other than this presentation, where Maqasid was specifically discussed. And even when we talk about goal orientation, actually it is a reference to Maqasid. However, I want to point out that discussing things at the Maqasid level is still at a very aggregate level. These need to be disaggregated, and also performance indicators must be identified. So in a very operationalized way, we can identify what kind of progress we are making through different things that we do. The last comment is that I don't quite think that we have an appreciation of the situation we have at hand. We have an existential challenge regarding this planet. This does not discriminate whether you are from this mazhab or that mazhab. This does not discriminate whether people are following mazhab or not following mazhab, or Muslims or non-Muslims. The issue is much bigger than that. And those who really want to take it seriously must move beyond their parochial views and come in ways that can bring us together, find common ground rather than what divides us. That's the last observation I want to make now. Inshallah, we can continue further.
Thank you very much, Dr. Omar Faruq, for his remarks on the speech of our respective speakers. At this point of time, I would like to invite our Honorable Chief Speaker of today's international webinar. He is Barrister Abdullah Muhammad Ismail. He is the President, Birmingham Jami Masjid and Islamic Center, and Chief Legal Consultant, Eurasia Legal Services, United Kingdom. Barrister Abdullah Muhammad Ismail, please.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidil mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in amma ba'd. First of all, I would like to thank the organizer of this very auspicious and very valuable event seminar. And I would also like to thank Dr. Mohammad Omar Faruq, who presented very nice and valuable comprehensive article for this seminar. In his seminar, alhamdulillah, he clearly identified the current challenges and challenges facing by the world. He also identified clearly the challenges of the Muslim countries and Muslim Ummah. We all know that the United Nations, the first adopted MDG, which failed, and they then adopted the SDG. What is the co-relationship between the Waqf and MDG, SDG? How the Waqf, which is very historic inheritance of the Muslim Ummah, can contribute to achieve those SDGs. In his article, Dr. Omar Faruq clearly identified those goals. Without repeating, I would like to just emphasize some key points of his articles, and also would like to make some added contribution to this article. First of all, if we aim to achieve SDGs, sustainable development goals, obviously we have to go back to the saying of our Imam Malik rahimahullah. In his very notorious saying, he said, "Ngan yasluha akhiru hadhihi al-ummah illa ma salaha bihi awwaluha." The last of this ummah will not achieve any success, samahat, islah, until and unless they adopt what their predecessor adopted. If we look at Hazrat Umar Faruq anhu saying, he said, if a dog dies in the bank of Furat, then I, Umar, will be responsible for this. From these two saying, we can see the first achievement Hazrat Umar Faruq anhu, first goal he achieved by accountability and responsibility. If I have $75 million or $1 billion in my pocket from the awqaf in my bank, and 75% of this I spent in corruption, I deceive it, I misappropriate it or misuse it, then Awqaf will not benefit achieving the sustainable development. Therefore, already some speakers, they pointed out the prerequisite for any kind of development to be sustained is a good governance. In other words, I would like to say a stable government, rule of law and order. Therefore, when we talk about sustainable development, first of all, we have to think whether the Muslim Ummah, Muslim country have sustainable and stable government, governance, rule of law and order, accountability, and responsibility. The fund Muslim Ummah have in their hand. The charity work they are doing all over the world, only even in the Ramadan, the zakat and sadaqah they are distributing is not sufficient. My question is not sufficient to eradicate, eliminate poverty of the Muslim world within 5 years or maximum within 10 years. My answer, and those who are already related to different bank and finance and economic department of the universities, they are doing extensive research on it, they clearly know that the answer should be yes. It is sufficient to eradicate the poverty from the Muslim world within 10 years, or we can say within maximum 15 years, within the time frame adopted by the United Nations when they adopted the SDG. But why we failed again and again to eradicate poverty from our country, our Muslim world, from the Muslim Ummah? Why we failed to educate our people, to develop skill and quality in the Muslim Ummah? The answer is lack of good governance, lack of law and order. It is not lack of resources. Alhamdulillah, Muslim Ummah and Muslim world had lots of resources, but they are using and abusing. In other words, I would like to say these resources. The lack of resources is not the problem to establish Waqf and in order to achieve our goals. Actually, problem lies in the lack of responsibilities and accountabilities. Therefore, when we talk about the Waqf and SDG or MDG, at the same time, we should include in our topic, in our discussion, good governance, law and order, establishing law and order, and establishing accountability and responsibility. When we talk about the Waqf, as one sister already mentioned, then we think establishing some mosque or some madrasa, and Dr. Umar Faruq already mentioned, then when we talk about the Waqf, we think about to establishing some maqabir, some graveyards. Actually, this was not the aim of the Awqaf. Historically, when Prophet established, what Muslim Ummah established, what Sahaba Kiram established. The aim was empowering the people. Therefore, when we talk about the Awqaf, its main objective should be empowering the people. It is not the only establishing the women's rights. Every country, every society, they know the dignity of the women, they know the honor of the women, they know what right and responsibility women have in the society. But the problem is empowering them. So when we talk about the Awqaf, we also include the issue of empowering, not just equality. Equality will come when we empower them. Similarly, our Awqaf should aim to develop the skills and ability. For example, in England, it is called not the Ministry of Education. It is called Ministry of Skill Development. So education is not sufficient. When we talk about the Awqaf or Waqf, we always think to establish some orphanage. With the mindset, keeping these orphans open forever. No, this should not be our aim. Our aim should be, yes, we establish orphanage from Awqaf, but empowering the orphan who will look after hundreds and thousands of orphans, and that one orphan, he will enrich and empower other orphans. So establishing orphanage should not be the aim of the Waqf. The Waqf's aim should be empowering the orphan who will need the society. Another thing, in Muslim world, the Waqf estates is also used only for teaching and providing some lectures. For example, our mosque, our madaris. What role are they playing? Is it just the teaching, or developing the leadership quality, management quality? Those who are managing our Awqaf estates, for example, mosque and madaris, how much leadership quality and management quality do they have? So Waqf estate should be used to develop leadership and management quality. Those who manage the society, lead the community, lead the country. Whenever we talk, what is the main problem of the Muslim Ummah? Most of the people answer the leadership. Leadership is the main problem with the Ummah. How much time and resources we have spent to develop this leadership, to develop the managerial quality, management quality? Very few, very little. So those who attended here, who made very valuable contributions in this today's seminar, I would like to think how our Awqaf, our Waqf estate, we do not have any limitation or lack of Waqf estates. One brother already talked about the Bangladesh. In every village in Bangladesh, there are dozens of the mosque, dozens of the madrasa. These are under the Waqf estate. But ulama are produced from this madrasa. Imams are produced from this mosque. Muazzin are produced from this mosque. But how capable are they? How skillful are they to provide management to the community? How capable are they? How skillful are they to lead this society? We have to think about this. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to use our Waqf, our Awqaf estates, to actually empower the community, empower the society, to make the people skillful, to develop their leadership and management quality, to lead the society. The Awqaf estates should not be used to keep the poor and poor forever, to empower the poor who need the society. May Allah give us tawfiq. Jazakumullah.
Thank you very much, Barrister Abdullah Muhammad Ismail, for his wonderful remarks. He has mentioned some very important points, and definitely the authority, the policy-making authority, will consider his points positively in their decision-making level. Ladies and viewers, we are at the last part of our international webinar today. At this point of time, the address by the chief guest. For delivering the address of chief guest, may I like to invite Professor Dr. Habib Ahmed. He is the chair of Sharjah in Islamic Law and Finance, Business School, Durham University, United Kingdom. Professor Dr. Habib Ahmed, please.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum to everyone. I just I want to share my screen. I have prepared a few slides, if I can. Okay, I think, I don't know if you can see my screen, but anyway, first of all, I want to thank the organizers to invite me on to this very interesting and important topic of Waqf and SDGs. I think SDGs is something which is being discussed for the last 5 years. And one of the issues we have with SDGs is that there's a huge funding gap. And there were estimates when SDGs were launched that this funding gap for developing countries was close to $2.5 trillion per year. And this gap was expected to be filled by the public, private, and non-profit sectors because the government would not be able to come up with this huge amount by itself, given its limitations of taxes and also the budget deficits they have. The other thing I just want to mention before I go is that actually most of the speakers have spoken. I'm one of the last speakers. So I think there's not much to add. I just want to, in some ways, recap what the others have said and basically provide a little bit different perspective in terms of the type of works and what they can do to achieve the SDGs. Now, if we look at the broad investments which are needed for achieving the SDGs, we can classify them into two broad categories. One would be investment in infrastructure, and infrastructure includes both economic and social infrastructure. The social infrastructure would be education and health. And the other one is, of course, to provide social goods and services to achieve the social and economic objectives. And of course, because it's sustainable, there has to be a qualitative overlay in terms of sustainability and resilience related to environment. And the SDGs also recognize the use of technology to achieve these very ambitious goals. Now, if you look at the status of OIC member countries in terms of SDG, they are not performing very well. I don't know if you can see my screen, but the OIC average is 60.7, which is actually only best to the African average. Otherwise, the SDG averages of OIC member countries is very poor. And if we look at some specific SDG achievement, we see that the OIC member countries are lagging behind. For example, when it comes to goal 2, zero hunger, 52 countries of the 57 countries, OIC member countries, they have major challenges to achieve this goal. When it comes to good health and well-being, which is very much important during this pandemic times, 42 countries of the 57 countries will have major challenges to achieve this. 10 countries will have significant challenges, and 4 countries challenges remain. So there's not too many countries which are actually on the path to goal achievement. So what it means is there is a need for huge investments to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. Now, if you talk about Waqf, actually, before we can see how Waqf can contribute to the SDGs, we have to distinguish between the existing Waqf and the new Waqf. The existing Waqf, as we know, these have been historically been established by Muslims of the past generation. And most of this Waqf is in the form of land and real estate. And it is managed by individuals. And now in some countries, the governments have taken over the management. The other thing, of course, is the new Waqf. It can come in different forms of assets. We don't have to rely on real estate and land. I think the most common type of Waqf which is being created contemporary is the cash Waqf, which is then transformed or converted into other forms of assets, income generating assets, and that income is being used for social purposes. The other thing which has come up in some discussions today is the legal format. In some countries, for example, in the West, you cannot legally establish a Waqf, so you have to establish a trust or a company, non-profit company, and then institute the Waqf features in those. And even in some Muslim countries, I think because Waqf is very much regulated, and when you create a Waqf, the government comes in and interferes. A lot of people who want to create Waqf, they use other forms of organizational formats. And for example, in Malaysia, if you create a Waqf, the state comes and takes over, or not takes over, but it basically manages it. And if you create a trust or a non-profit company, then you can manage it. So I think these are some of the practical issues which we face in developing new Waqf during contemporary times. Now, the issues arising with SDGs would differ in terms of the existing Waqf and the contemporary new Waqf. When it comes to the existing Waqf, we can think of some issues which may constrain its contribution to SDGs. The first, of course, is the Waqf deed. As we know from a Sharia point of view, the Waqf deed determines everything about the Waqf. So if some Waqf was created 100 years ago, it probably did not consider the SDGs. It had some social objectives maybe, but the other problem, of course, is that a lot of Waqf are created for religious purposes and may not directly serve the SDGs. So the key issue here is because these Waqf were created at different times, the objectives may not coincide directly with the SDGs. But having said that, a lot of Waqf were created for social purposes, and those Waqf definitely will, in some ways, have some impact on the SDGs. The other thing, of course, is the Waqf asset, which is the, as I mentioned, the existing Waqf mainly are land and real estate. Which the implication is that only the rich could contribute. Now, as we know from evidence that in most of the Muslim countries, these Waqf are not very well maintained or developed. As a result, the returns are very low. So that means the impact is very low. And third issue, which is a constraint, has been discussed quite a lot in terms of management and governance. And I don't want to go too much into details in this. The key thing is that a lot of Waqf are mismanaged, even by individuals or the government. And they have either very little social impact, or in some cases, they have been lost because of corruption. Now, if we want to have impact on SDGs with existing Waqf, I think, among other things, we can think of two key issues to improve the capacity of Waqf. One would be to invest in Waqf assets to increase their productive capacity and returns. And Islamic finance can play an important role in this. And we have seen some cases, for example, Islamic Development Bank, they have Waqf Properties Investment Fund, which is basically a fund to invest in Waqf properties to improve and increase its productive capacity. In Singapore, we have seen capital markets being used, Sukuk issued to invest in Waqf properties. And also in Makkah, Zamzam Tower is a good example of a Sukuk used to increase or improve the properties. And again, it was mentioned by Dr. Magda, I think, about My Waqf, which is a crowdfunding platform which raises funds to invest in existing Waqf. Of course, the other one, again, has been discussed quite a lot in terms of improving governance management. And I think this is very important. We need to have professional management of assets. Otherwise, I think the returns and impact of Waqf on SDGs will be very limited. Now, when we think of new Waqf, I think the best way to go is to go to other assets. And I personally feel that the most Waqf should be in terms of cash, which is then converted into other income generating assets. And new instruments are being used, for example, Waqf certificates, Sukuk, digital platforms to raise these cash Waqf. And the good thing about cash Waqf is that not only the rich, but any person with medium income, even low income people, they can contribute to Waqf. So what we're doing is, if you have cash Waqf certificates, which are say only less than $100, an average person can actually help to the Waqf and actually perform a religious duty. So the future of Waqf probably lies in a new model of cash Waqf and investment, which would require good management. And one of the ways this can be done is to use the examples of contemporary endowments in the West. The university endowments have been mentioned, so that may be a way to go in the future. And in terms of the final slide I have, way forward, there has to be use of technology and digital overlay to enhance the impact of Waqf. And we can think of three key ways in which Waqf can contribute to the SDGs. First is to provide the social infrastructure, where basically Waqf is used to provide health and education. And health and education can be in terms of hospital and schools. These are a part of the SDGs. And the second obvious way of using Waqf to enhance the SDGs is to provide social goods and services, to basically use the returns of Waqf in capacity building, and also providing financial services in terms of microfinancing, for example. And third, because we're talking about sustainable development, sustainability and resilience is very important. And I think contemporary Waqf, they have to actually, when you talk about Waqf asset investment, we have to think in terms of whether they're ESG compliant or not. If a Waqf is investing in assets which hurt the environment, then it is not really not only fulfilling the SDGs, but even contrary to the Islamic teachings. And another important way in which Waqf can contribute to the SDGs is to actually increase investment in sustainable solutions. We have different types of assets, even for example, investment in forests and environment related, for example, green energy. These are some of the sectors where some of this cash Waqf can be invested. So I have basically in some way summarized what most of the speakers have done. And I again want to thank the organizers for inviting me here. And finally, I want to thank all the speakers. And it's good to see the colleagues again after some time, two Omar Faruqs, among others. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Thank you very much, our honorable chief guest, Professor Dr. Habib Ahmed, for his wonderful remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, dear viewers, we are at the last part of our international webinar. Our honorable chair, he has joined from the very beginning of this session. So I would like to invite to address today's session Dr. Abu Omar Rafiq Ahmed. He is an associate professor, Islamic Economics Institute, King Abdulaziz University, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Dr. Abu Omar Rafiq Ahmed, please.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Mursaleen. Nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. First and foremost, I must thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for bestowing his enormous blessings on all of us and giving us tawfiq to have gathered today from the remote corners of his vast universe in this sacred month of Muharram to discuss an important topic, that is Waqf and SDGs, aspirations and realities. In this connection, I would like to take the opportunity to extend my heartfelt appreciations to the organizers of this event for their painstaking efforts to make this international webinar a reality. My appreciation should also go to the respected keynote speaker, Dr. Muhammad Umar Faruq, chief guest, chief speaker, and all distinguished discussants whom I consider the assets for this ummah in their relevant field. I also thank the moderator and our valuable audience, without whose active participation it would not have been possible to make this meeting a great success within a short span of time. I believe your all-out support will continue for such future endeavors so that the Ummah will reap the maximum benefits from these events, inshallah. Wabillahi tawfiq wal hidayah. Having said that, please allow me to say a few words as chair of this event to sum up the webinar for which I have been invited here. Brothers and sisters from all around the world, although Waqf is not specifically mentioned in the Quran, the concept of wealth redistribution is strongly emphasized in a plethora of verses therein. For example, the verse number 215, 264, 270, 280 in Surah Al-Baqarah. Also, a hadith, the very famous hadith narrated by Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala an, most probably accounts for the origin of Waqf institution in the world of Islam. He has reported Allah's messenger as saying, when a man dies, all his acts come to an end, but three, recurring charity or knowledge by which people benefit, or a pious offspring who prays for him. This hadith is related in Muslim. Moreover, there is definitive evidence that many great personalities of Islam had endowed their properties for charitable purposes. As we can see, the Khulafa Rashidun, or the rightly guided caliphs of Islam, have practiced Waqf in their lifetime. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam advised Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu to give away his land in Khaybar as Waqf. Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu gave it away for the poor and needy, declared that the land must not be sold, inherited, or donated. Likewise, Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu anhu is reported to have bought a well, Bir Uthman, known as Bir Uthman, owned by a man in Medina at 20,000 dirhams, which he made as Waqf for all Muslims to drink from. With regard to the objectives of Waqf in general, there can be some of in key four objectives. First, Waqf is a transcendent activity. This means that Waqf has a worship dimension, ibadah dimension. Every activity associated with Waqf must follow the straight and true path. Second, Waqf is for prosperity. This means that Waqf is expected to be managed productively to generate optimal returns that are distributed to the welfare of Muslim community. Third, Waqf is to develop da'wah work, that is the propagation of Islam. Productive Waqf is expected to improve the da'wah activities. Fourth, Waqf is to maintain dignity and self-respect. Waqf, which is managed productively and generates optimal returns will enable people to become self-reliant. In 2018, Islamic social finance stakeholders achieved many milestones in aligning their work with the Sustainable Development Goals. For example, the International Waqf Core Principles were announced at the annual meetings of the IMF and World Bank in Bali in October 2018. These principles, developed in partnership with Badan Waqf Indonesia and UNDP, offer important standards on disclosure and transparency. UNDP also announced that it is working with Badan Waqf on the first blockchain enhanced digital platform to increase Waqf collections and enhance the effective use of Waqf land. In terms of the current Waqf assets of Muslim world, it is estimated that in some Muslim countries, the Waqf assets have so far reached 1/3 or more of cultivable land. However, due to unavoidable reasons, Waqf has degenerated both as concept and in real terms. It is difficult to estimate for current size of Waqf assets, although currently it is roughly estimated from $100 billion to $1 trillion. The Waqf is experiencing major revival nowadays. So let's come into the SDGs. What's for these SDGs? With the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, the United Nations has identified a set of ambitious targets, which are known as the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, that represent a new opportunity for humanity to have a common framework to guide our collective actions and achieve a better future for every living being on this earth. Nevertheless, the SDG funding gap, which is estimated at $2.5 trillion per year for developing countries, cannot be closed by traditional development aid alone. Filling this gap will require the engagement of new financing partners and tools to leave no one behind. This is where Islamic social finance in general and Waqf in particular can play a crucial role and offer governments a strong, non-traditional source of financing to advance their SDG implementation. With its emphasis on inclusiveness and core principles such as channeling funding to the real economy by promoting risk sharing, avoiding excessive speculations, and limiting debt to the value of assets, Islamic social finance is strongly aligned with the SDGs. In this regard, Islamic social finance tools such as Zakah and Waqf have significant potential to address marginalization and vulnerability when directed towards locally driven programs promoting social and economic inclusion. Apart from Waqf funds, which can play a significant role as long-term investments, as indicated by Dr. Sami Salahat, there are some other Islamic financial instruments that have high potential of aligning with the SDGs. This may include Qard Hasan, Sukuk, Islamic microfinance, Zakah, Islamic socially responsible investing or SRI, green finance, and CSR or corporate social responsibility. These can be mixed with microfinance, cryptocurrencies, and other modern mechanisms. Also, green sukuk can pave the way towards more climate-friendly investments, as well as the possible use of output sharing sukuk for financing solar energy. Undoubtedly, tapping into the enormous potential of Islamic social finance and blending it with other sources of financing will scale up, impact, and accelerate progress in Muslim world between now and 2030. The United Nations Development Programme supports governments and partners to implement the SDGs around the world, and Muslims' engagement with Islamic social finance also spans the globe. The Islamic Development Bank has estimated that between 230 billion and 560 billion dollars is given in zakah each year globally. Recognizing the potential, Indonesia has paved new ground in leveraging zakah for the SDGs. Waqf has an even bigger potential. For example, the value of Waqf land and property in Indonesia alone is estimated at around $27 billion. If directed towards SDG outcomes, Waqf could make a significant change in support of Indonesia's commitment to reducing poverty and inequality. As we all know that the deadline of achieving Millennium Development Goals, or what's called MDGs, has ended in 2015. And now the world is targeting to realize comprehensive sustainable development goals between 2016 and 2030. Although some Muslim countries have recorded remarkable advancements in a number of targets of MDGs in terms of food security, health, education, and poverty alleviation, due to shortage of funds from local and overseas sources, they are still facing several challenges to the attainments of some other targets of MDGs. Similarly, ascertaining the availability of funds is going to be one of the greatest challenges for them to achieve SDGs. For sustainable development, majority of these countries need massive infrastructural developments, such as roads, bridges, recreational parks, schools, colleges, universities, religious and cultural institutions. Mobilization of resources through taxes, fees, or toll is not enough to finance these much needed public goods. Hence, finance by individuals as well as by institutions such as private public NGOs is very important. It is historically evident that zakah and waqf jointly played colossal role for socio-economic development in the Muslim societies. These institutions are still capable of offering a universal solution to achieve SDGs. In particular, waqf is capable of serving an effective third sector, that is private and public, other than private and public sector, as a vehicle for sustainable development. Our keynote speaker, Dr. Muhammad Umar Faruq, has rightly commented that in the fragmented Muslim world, the role of waqf has been marginalized and has further fallen behind in meeting the nature and magnitude of the challenges of modern times. He also rightly mentioned that our priorities in the ways we use our resources in general and waqf in particular lack the kind of impact with positive externality that we know possible. He was also right to say that most of the SDGs align well with the long-term maqasid al-Islam, and as such, waqf is highly relevant in this context because it has the self-sustaining feature. It is true that the stakeholders of waqf have the opportunity to develop and implement waqf-based development plan in line with the framework of SDGs. Yes, today we are discussing SDGs, but we started talking about sustainable development only when the West somewhat embraced and highlighted the existential threat the planet is facing. Dr. Umar Faruq has also correctly observed that even after nearly half a century, no more than 25% of Muslims utilize Islamic financial services, not being convinced about its true value proposition. Apart from what have been suggested in this international webinar today by our respected scholars in realizing SDGs, I may add that in order for Islamic social finance in general and Waqf in particular to fulfill its potential and provide effective support to the SDGs, there is a need to establish an enabling environment. It is undeniable fact that the Waqf has the potential to play a crucial role in supporting the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. In the face of significant financing needs for the SDGs, Waqf has untapped potential as a substantial and non-traditional source of financing for the SDGs. Therefore, at the country level, regulatory and supervisory frameworks should be strengthened. Legal underpinnings of Waqf instruments need to be more robust, and instruments for liquidity management need to be developed. At the global level, the standardization of contracts and the relevant Sharia rulings are critical. In addition to promoting the adoption of international standards issued by bodies such as the Islamic Financial Services Board and Accounting and Auditing Organization for Islamic Financial Institutions, AUFI. Besides, there is substantial potential in developing Islamic social finance instruments to promote inclusive growth, reduce inequality, and accelerate poverty reduction. I hope the World Bank would come forward to support to strengthen the legal, regulatory, and institutional foundations of Islamic finance, to gear it towards playing an expanded role in global development. Initiatives are also needed to foster the use of Islamic financing instruments in addressing specific development challenges, such as infrastructure provision and financing for SMEs. I earnestly hope that today's August webinar will act as a platform of acquiring knowledge for all of the participants, and all of us would be benefited from what we have been able to achieve from its outcome. And I look forward to having more international webinars on different issues faced by the Ummah. Again, I thank you all for your all-out support through joining this noble initiative. Please don't forget to place your valuable suggestions and constructive criticisms to the organizers so that by learning from their mistakes, they can improve the quality of their future webinars to make them more beneficial, vibrant, and results-oriented forums for all. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us wisdom, vision, capability, and dedication to rise to meet our difficult challenges, since the Muslim Ummah have been evolved in the language of the glorious Quran as best of the community. Last but not the least, I thank you, my honorable audience, for having patiently sat through my chair address. And with this, I would like to end up this August event for today. Thank you so much, and thank you all.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abu Umar Faruq Ahmed, for his wonderful address of chair. Honorable guests and dear viewers, for a long time you have been with us, and so many issues have been discussed, have been raised, and we understood from the discussion that as a Muslim we have a much higher responsibility towards working with the global agenda of sustainable development while presenting viable and at the same time effective Islamic model for the humanity to follow in coming years. So thank you very much, our every guest, for your valuable time, for your valuable speeches, and at the same time I'd like to extend our thanks to our honorable viewers, listeners who have been joined with us from the very beginning. With these remarks, I would like to conclude our international webinar now. Thank you very much once again. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon all of you.